Hi, welcome to Going Public. I'm your host, Tam McGee, and we got a very special guest today for you. We have Parish President Dove to talk about FEMA maps and what's going on with flood insurance. And so, President Dove, there's a whole new system that FEMA's doing, this FEMA 2.0, new maps, new system, big changes coming, not necessarily good changes for South Louisiana, but you've been on the front line and trying to do what we can to get our insurance as low as we possibly can. Tell us what's going on.
Well, in 2008, FEMA introduced their maps and the flood maps, as they're called, with the previous administration, and they objected to the maps. And in certain areas, you don't object to the entire map system because some of it's okay. And that was in 2009. And since then, when I took office in 2016, we continued to fight to try to change the maps. But everything was cut off in 2019, and then here recently, they sent a letter, FEMA sent a letter, which I had on this show a week ago, that basically forced Terrebonne Parish to accept them or lose the NFIP, which is the National Flood Insurance Program. And if you lose that, you can't borrow money from the bank. It's just the whole Terrebonne Parish would be devastated through lending institutions, et cetera.
Yeah, there was some discussion about trying not to adopt them, but you really didn't have a choice at the end of the day. Is that what's been going on?
Yeah, there's no probation. I know somebody came up with it, there's a probation. There's no probation. The letter that we got, if we didn't accept them by September the 7th, then we would lose the NFIP program. But remember, you don't only lose the insurance. If there's a hurricane, FEMA doesn't come here. They no longer recognize Terrebonne Parish for FEMA grant funds and community development block grant money.
And yesterday they had a court case. There's a lawsuit involving all of this. I think they're trying to get an injunction to stop this program. And I think, were you there yesterday for the court case?
Yes, I was. Archie Chasson was, Bat Jewell, plus some other parish presidents. It's called the FEMA 2.0 flood insurance, which is an increase in the price.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to get 2.0 because most people are quadrupling their rates.
Actually, I think the study in Houma shows that their average increase is going to go from $982 a year to $3,511. But we're not alone. Florida's also facing the issue, and they're seeing increases to $7,000 annually. So this is not just affecting South Louisiana. This is a national-wide issue affecting small coastal communities all over the United States.
Right, and that's why the lawsuit yesterday, that was handled by the Attorney General and the Solicitor General, Liz, and there's 10 states suing along with 39 parishes that are all suing, so we're not alone with this.
Absolutely. I know you're doing everything you can on this issue. Let's kind of go through it. You have some Terrebonne Parish is putting together a place where the parish can go and look at their own flood map. Is that what's going on, Gordon?
Yes. If you go to tpcg.org floodplain PLAIN, which is on the next page. But what it is the new flood maps came in force in effect September 7th, and then if you go to tpcg.org floodplain. This would take you step by step to see what floodplain you're in, and what is your base flood elevation is what it's called.
Okay, and then what do you do with that information?
Well, with that information, you see where you're at, and what area you're in. Now, if you're not building a new home or nothing, you're fine. Okay, so you're not affected if you're already paying your flood insurance, but then kicks in 2.0. Which is they came on top of these, remember, the 2.0 is everyone in the United States, and they will reassess your location, not based on whether you got levees, pump stations, anything, just if you're nearby you or something, a canal. Then it takes away your grandfather clause, your grandfather status, I should say, so you're no longer grandfathered in.
So all the work we've been doing over the last 10 years is really not being accounted for in these maps.
Not on insurance, right? Not on insurance. I mean, it stops us from flooding, but we're supposed to get credit with the with FEMA, and FEMA came up with the 2.0. And remember, it wasn't congressionally mandated. It was administratively put into the system. So when I talked to the director, I said, all y'all got to do is stop it. If it was congressionally mandated, and as you know, as a legislator, it's out of their hands. But it was not congressionally mandated. They came up with that.
Yeah, so it's really difficult for us right now. I know it, and it's not just the flood insurance side. We're seeing insurance spikes all over the place. So insurance is one of the biggest issues that South Louisiana is facing right now. I mean, everywhere I go, the grocery store, everybody's talking about it. And so you're doing some proactive steps. And I see you know, there's more stuff that's going on. What's the base elevation look like by the state? I think you have a slide on that, Gordy.
Yeah, and this one on, basically what it says is that the interactive maps on the LSU Ag Center website will show the minimum flood elevation requirement for new construction. But on August 1st, the legislature added 1 foot to this under the Louisiana building codes and 2 foot for critical facilities. So make sure you take that into account.
And would we get credit for that on the FEMA maps? The fact that the state's mandating that?
No, and they should. And they should.
The state's trying to be proactive, trying to increase the elevations, trying to do everything the right way, and we're still not getting credit for it on our FEMA maps.
No, not at all. Not at all. They're really being difficult. And like I said, I was in court yesterday, and the judge took it under advisement. What we're asking for is a stay, and an injunction to stay it, and that way we can have a trial. And I mean, all the evidence showed that no one can tell, they cannot explain to you how they came up with these formulas.
That's what I'm hearing. The problem is a lack of transparency. There's no calculations. There's nothing for the homeowner to look at and say, this is the process you went through to come up with my map. It's just basically somebody behind a sheet somewhere hiding and coming out with these rates. Is that what y'all are complaining about?
Right. And witness after witness from Director Tingle with GOSAF to Dwayne Bourgeois, to Matt Jewell, they all testified, to Wendy Thibodeau from Lafourche, and FEMA didn't cross-examine them one time, not one of them. Now, you're an attorney, and yet you go to trial and you sit there the whole time and you don't cross-examine them like we don't have to. It's truly amazing. I've never been to a courtroom where no one would cross-examine our witnesses,
Right. Well, look, so you feel like you've been aggrieved. You feel like you're a homeowner. You feel like you've been put in the wrong category. Gordy, what can you do?
Well, you could on your own, you could go to what they call a LOMA, a letter map amendment, where it's a system, and you could scan and go down the system, and it'll show you how you can lower your elevation. And this is done more than what people believe it's done, and it's very successful. But it's just another red tape step that you have to take, and it's totally ridiculous. But I mean, we have no choice but to accept it.
Right, and we're using the QR codes that we all learned about during COVID, right?
That's correct.
All right, well, tell us all the work that's been done. What have y'all been doing to try and mitigate all these issues and prevent this, Gordy?
Well, Terrebonne Parish, we've completed numerous projects. We've done 30 pump stations in the last 7.5 years. Of course, Morganza to the Gulf was built, 78 miles of levees with 13 floodgates, and all the hurricanes we've had, no one's flooded. I mean, we've solved the problem of Terrebonne. Now, we still want to go a little higher with our levees, but we're in good shape. And what happened is FEMA came in and they cut off all projects July of 2019 that did not include in the flood map. So 4 years of construction, they just threw out the window.
And Gordy, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, but I do want to hit on it again because I've heard it in the public. Do we really have a choice with this? Is there anything that we can do can we reject the maps? Is there anything left for us to do, or do we really have to accept it?
No, under the FEMA letter, you have to accept it, because if you lose the NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program, if you're in a flood zone, a bank cannot lend you money unless you have flood insurance. any loan institution cannot lend you money. If there's a hurricane, if there's anything, anything that pertains to hurricane, windstorms, or anything, we're out. You had to accept them. Now, Lafourche Parish was given an extension because the FEMA was supposed to, in the official journal, filed in the official journal, well, they did it in the wrong newspaper. I think they did it in the Gazette instead of the Comet, or vice versa, whichever is the official journal. I think Comet is. So that gave Lafourche an appeal, a way to appeal it. Now, I hope they appeal it for forever. I mean, for 3 years or 5 years, because that's our friends over there. They got lucky, and the FEMA made a mistake, and they had grounds for the appeal. But I don't think the appeal is going to last long. I mean, they're going to come back and they're going to do it right the next time. They're not going to make that mistake twice.
This is just a delay tactic, really. At the end of the day, they're going to end up in the same boat that you're in, right?
100%.
It's a shame that that's the kind of the silliness that we're at, that one parish is being treated differently based off of a newspaper article, and we're in two different spots, but we're basically the same parish.
Yeah, and if anyone's, like I said, if anyone comes and says, well, you can go on probation, who's ever saying that, I don't want to use the word lying, but they're making it up. They're living in Never Never Land. You had to accept these maps. It's in black and white on a FEMA. Director sent it to us, and they were going to cancel us after September 7th.
Hold on, Parish President Dove. We'll be back with more Going Public after a quick break.
A new company with a lot of history. GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
In South Louisiana, storms are a way of life. Every storm poses a different threat, whether from flooding or hurricane-force winds. At All South Consulting Engineers, we help protect our people from these disasters. Before a storm, we work with our leaders to prevent catastrophic damage. After the storm, we help get the resources needed for rebuilding. We have helped our cities, parishes, and school boards recover over $2 billion to rebuild our community. We'll be here for the next one.
Hi, I'm Councilwoman Jessica Domingue, and today we're going to talk about school zone safety.
Drivers are required to yield to pedestrians in a crosswalk. Always stop when someone is in the road and wait for them to cross completely before proceeding. Follow the speed limit and always stop when school buses are picking up and dropping off students.
Keeping students safe is a community responsibility, so let's all do our part.
Pelican Waste and Debris is your local company. We don't just work here, we live here and understand the unique challenges that face our region. Our commitment to our community and customers and love for Louisiana keeps us motivated. Pelican meets every residential and commercial service need, offering roll-off, front-load, and compactor services, ideal for hotels, restaurants, apartments, construction or industrial sites, and much more. We also make recycling simple and cost-efficient, offering single-stream recycling program options. We have set the highest standards for environmental protection, community engagement, and guaranteed client satisfaction. Visit pelicanwaste.net or call us at 985-873-9553 to save money with hassle-free service. Our team has over 100 years of experience, so we know how to make you happy. The sky is the limit, so fly with the Pelican.
Welcome back to Going Public. I'm your host, Tanner McGee. We're sitting down with Gordy Dove. Right now, we've been talking about FEMA, the new things going on at Rating 2.0. Before the break, we talked about what was going on with what people could do in the public. Tell us about what's going on with the parish and what they're doing right now to try and address these issues.
What Terrebonne Parish is working hard on is a community letter of map revision. This will allow the Terrebonne Parish to publish flood maps that include the most recent flood mitigation measures, like our levees, pump stations, and stuff they did not include in there. And of course, it says we must comply by FEMA's flood maps or be at risk of losing suspension from the National Flood Insurance Program. Well, you're not at risk. You will lose it. You know, it's just, and what that really means is, you know, in the past, everyone has always gone after doing the whole parish. Now we're taking the worst section by section that we think they got really ridiculous on, and we're going to take if Chauvin or Montague or Berg or Delors, Dulac, whatever, because the bayous really got hit hard. So we take it section by section, but all together now. We're not getting one section before the next area. We're doing it all together, but we're going each one, and we're going to fight for that particular area to get them lowered. And it can be done. We're using a couple of the engineering firms, and see, we use Aptum, the firm for things like that. That's the same one that LaFouche used. We both use the same engineering firm. It's called Aptum.
And Aptum is a big statewide and maybe
nationwide company that works on flood maps.
They're involved in a bunch of different projects going on, and so that parish, you're going community by community, doorstep by doorstep almost, instead of doing a big parish-wide approach.
You summed it up well. And remember, besides them, we have consultants and we have other people. Aptum is the lead on it. APTIM.
Gotcha. Gordy, let's take a shift and talk about some things that's going on in the parish that's not necessarily FEMA. You have a new budget this year for 2023 y'all adopted. Tell us about the budget.
Yeah, the budget's $247.7 million. We have $106 million in capital outlay, thanks to you and your colleagues in Baton Rouge. And our bond rating is AA minus and A, which is as good as any other parish. I mean, we've general fund balance is $17.1 million in 2022. In the past, it's always been $8 or $9 million. So we've really, Candace Malden and her group has done a wonderful job. In 2022, the sales tax collection is 10.6 greater than 2021. So Terrebonne is fiscally strong. I put $600 million in public assistance, CDBG, and hazard mitigation money, but we probably gonna get 800 or 900, so it's a lot more than that.
And we've been seeing that the sales tax collections are really up.
They were until the last couple of months. They came down, so we put whenever the sales tax come down below a certain point, we do a hiring freeze. And that's what I did with the parish, and me and Candace meet together and we decide, let's do a hiring freeze. And we usually only do it for a couple of months to let the taxes level out, you know. And the hiring freeze doesn't mean we don't hire anyone. It's just we don't open up any new positions. If we lose a police officer, we'll go hire another police officer. So the hiring freeze is just for new open positions, and it's just being fiscally strong, you know, fiscally conservative. And so, you know, so we're being careful because with the high interest rates right now at the banks and all, capital purchases that's what's lowering your sales tax. Right now, if you borrow money, you can borrow it at about 8%. So people aren't going to buy a car, a boat, or things as quick. So that's why the federal government has to get that interest rate down.
I was a kid when the interest rates were this high. I mean, it's
right.
been unbelievable to watch. You know, one of the things I think people in the public don't necessarily get to see every day unless it's in their area is how much work the parish is actually doing on any given day. When we're talking about drainage and we're talking about construction projects, you've got some real equipment out there for the parish moving some dirt around.
Well, when you hear someone complain, well, you're not doing ditches. Well, that's 3,000 or 4,000 miles of ditches at Terrebonne Parish. So every day we have 2 vacuum trucks, that's what cleans your culverts, but you have 19 dump trucks, 5 great alls, which is a road excavator, 18 excavators. No parish has that many working at one time except maybe Orleans and Baton Rouge because of their size. 2 brush buggies, 5 dozers, 7 skid steers, 8 tractors, which cut the ditches, the lateral ditches and all, and three truck saws, which is lilies, which with these boats that go in there and we pick up lilies. We have 2 or 3 crews doing lilies every day, and of course somebody will go, somebody will go on Facebook and say, y'all don't do anything to lilies, but you just not in that area, So we really have a good maintenance program, and if you go to if you go to the next one, we have 42 pump stations with telemetry, with 5 to go online, which they're actually online now. So 47 out of our 98 pump stations are on telemetry and SCADA, and all the ones are automated.
Look, I don't think anybody can criticize you for not doing pump stations and drainage in this parish.
And we put the oil stations, we put 24 generators. They never had generators in this parish.
Right.
Now that's ludicrous. I mean, that doesn't. And remember, you don't just put a generator, you got to rewire the pump station.
And look, it's not just putting the pump stations. You're doing automated. These are technologically advanced pump stations.
We have a Cat 5 building. They can operate. They can start, stop, operate them, measure the flow. They know the suction side, the discharge side, what the water elevations are. And it's all done in a building now. They don't even have to go out there when there's a storm here.
Look, I've talked to my colleagues in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, particularly the ones in New Orleans when they have all their drainage issues. And I tell them all the time, you need to come see what we're doing in Terrebonne as far as what we can monitor and see in real time. And they're still stuck in 1925 with their drainage.
Yeah. We all automated, and if you go to the next one, that just shows the ones they're all automated, but that's the ones in telemetry and SCADA. And these are all the big pump stations, and if we keep going, this is all your pump stations with telemetry and SCADA, and then we go to capital outlay projects, which you're a big part of. From Terrebonne Basin Watershed, that's a big pump on H&C. We got $3 million for engineering. Bayou La Carpe, we're working on that. That's Leveron Street in Columbus. That if you saw next to Popeyes, we dug a big pit to relieve that water in that area till we could put the pump station. Bayou Terrebonne pump station at the lock system. Y'all had got us money on that. We have $5 million statewide flood program.
And you do in quality of life projects too. It's not just drainage and roads all the time.
Oh yeah, Terrebonne Sports Complex. You and your wife are big part of that, and you brought us a lot of money. And we've got lighted. We got stadium lighted soccer fields now, and we did a volleyball. We've got fishing piers, baseball fields, water parks. And we're fixing it's going to show a little further down, we're going to buy a bunch more land.
And one of the things that I always look at it, because I think it's not always represented, is every part of the parish is covered in these capital outlay projects. I see all 5 bayous. I see the city. I see the north part of the parish represented in all these drainage and projects. So I don't feel like you've ever focused on one part. I think it's been around for everybody.
And like I said, it's quite a list of them. And in the Funderburg Bridge, we're working on the Funderburg Bridge, which should have been changed for years. We're going a 3-lane bridge. We're starting to acquire the land.
And people don't realize, I was going to ask you that about, it's more than just building the bridge. You got to get the land around it. And that costs money.
Right. And if you don't get the landowner, you don't get him involved and get him to where he's happy with the price, you have to go expropriate it. And we try not to expropriate it because that's a whole nother animal,
But you're not allowed to pay more than the land's worth by state statute, right?
That's correct.
So you can't go to, even if you wanted to, you couldn't pay them more than what it's.
That's right.
What it
so if they don't accept it, your only alternative is to expropriate it, and we try not to do that,
Moving past that, we're going to talk about your favorite topic, Gordy, and that's barrier islands. What's been going on with the barrier islands around Terrebonne Parish?
Well, we're so busy talking about Boganza and the lock systems and everything else. We've really, and y'all, because this is a state doing it, and y'all the one that been pushing this, is Trinity East Island, West Bell Pass, and Timley Island. We spent $161 million. We put about 20 million cubic yards on it with that and Whiskey Island over the last 6 years, and we've. So we haven't forgot the barrier islands. We just don't talk about it as much as we can. $161 million, as you know, that's BP fine money, Restore Act money.
Absolutely, and I've been in those meetings with CPRA when you're fighting with them, pushing them to work on our barrier islands.
Yeah, and the next few pictures is pictures of the islands. You can see they're not where we want them to be. Now, Whiskey Island, that was just alone was 10.5 million cubic yards, and we're pumping in from Ship Shoal. It's a better quality of sand. So our islands aren't near where we want them because we want segmented breakwater rocks one day. But meantime, we got to maintain them so they don't go underwater. You can see the bulldozers working right here, and where they pumping, where you see the water coming up, that's coming from 9 miles offshore, and Trinity and Timalaya, and we've never forgot that portion of it.
Yes, and I want to remind everybody in the public, this isn't what President Dove wants to do. You have to work with Army Corps of Engineers, the CPRA. It's tons of agencies being involved in getting all these projects done, doing it to their specifications, with you pushing it along the way.
And permitting and mitigating for it, and you have to pay for the mitigation, as you well know.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've been involved every step of the way.
Look, they got so much going on, we didn't even get through the entire slide, Gordy, but we're almost out of time, so we thank you for being on, and we appreciate you coming by.
And thank you for everything you've done in Baton Rouge for us.
All right.
It's been enjoyed working with you.
Thank you, and that's all we have in time for Going Public. I was your host, Tanner McGee, with Parish President Gordy Dove.